Are you communicating too little or too much? The correct degree of communication is extremely necessary when you're trying to handle people, especially in business. My name is Rob Witt. I manage a team of over 30 people. We're generating $150 million in sales per year. And the reason I've been able to scale and do this is through handling communication correctly, both within my team and with our clients. So when I'm trying to find out, am I communicating enough on a topic or not enough on a topic, there's a couple of key things that I'm using to decide and that I'm looking out for. So a team needs to coordinate. And if you're not having regular meetings of some type, then the team doesn't get coordinated and you lose a lot of efficiency in the mix. It's just unfortunate, but people do need communication. They're coming from a variety of backgrounds, they're coming from a variety of experiences. And if you don't train them on your team, then you're assuming that they're just going to get the training from whatever other company or experience they had. And that's a huge gamble. So unless you're really headhunting someone special or you have some skill sets that you just don't have, I highly, highly do not recommend that. I always assume that everyone that comes into my company, no matter what their experience, that they know nothing. And I always train them as if they know nothing for the most part. Now, this might not apply in some very, very technical fields, but still they need to get up to speed. I had a friend that actually worked at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena. He was a robotics engineer, and he said that when they would hire these new grads from USC or UCLA or whatever it was, that they would take years to get up to speed, and they would hire someone knowing that they were basically just going to get coffee for years, because that's how long it took them to get up to speed, even as the top graduates from these very prestigious universities. So whenever I'm hiring people, I always bring them on and I make sure that I bring them up to speed. And having regular touch points is extremely vital. So with my team, I do a daily meeting once a week. I do a daily meeting once a day. It's obviously a daily meeting. And I keep that short. And that really all I'm trying to do is welcome them to work, get them started on the day, make sure they have their priorities straight, make sure they know what to work on. Oftentimes what I'll see is if you don't have enough meetings, then the meetings you do have will change topics. So as an example, we had a meeting that was specifically about sales, and very quickly it became a meeting about marketing, which is related topics, but going over the sales of is a different part of the process than bringing in the leads. So marketing brings in the leads, sales closes the leads. And the sales meeting ended up becoming a marketing meeting because they had not had the marketing meeting first. And the marketing meeting needed to occur. There was coordination and questions that needed to get resolved, and they needed to have a face-to-face meeting, but they didn't have that. And so the sales meeting ended up becoming the marketing meeting, and that indicated to me that there was not enough meetings in an area. Now, I have been a part of companies, and I'm sure many people have. There's tons of horror stories about too many meetings, and that is not productive. If it can be in an email, it should be an email. Or even better, film like a Loom video or some other kind of software. Film a video, and then just send that along to explain something. You don't need a whole meeting. So you really have to be able to judge, is this something that I can just pick up the phone and talk to someone, or I can send a text message, or I can send an email, or do I need to have a face-to-face meeting? And don't have people in the meeting if it's not necessary. Now, in dealing with clients, I have only once in my career ever had a client tell me I was communicating too much. Only one time. Almost always clients get mad at you for not communicating enough. Now, this might vary in different industries. So just realize that the more you communicate, the more people understand what you're working on. They understand your priorities. They understand the value of your work. And same thing, I've had, I don't know, maybe this comes from children should be seen, not heard, or something like this. That I'm just going to do my job, and if I just do my job properly, there won't be any problems. And my boss will just know that I'm working, and know that I'm being productive, and know that the value that I'm bringing. But if I don't actually communicate it, how are they supposed to know? And they're dealing with all these other issues. They're dealing with the problems of their job. And if I'm not doing the correct amount of communication, the correct volume of communication, then it just becomes a huge mystery as to what's actually occurring, or what I'm running into, or what difficulty I'm having. And then when I do request additional personnel or additional help, I'm communicating into an area that they have no context and no experience. So I need to have communicated earlier what I was running into, and then I can set up that situation where now I'm better able to receive something. So I'm setting up I'm using daily reports, weekly reports, different kinds of situations, updates on things to set up the situation where now when I request something, then it's much easier to kind of receive that. So that's kind of how I judge, like, if I'm trying to manage an employee and they're getting a little bit off track, then I know I need to have a bit more communication with them, a bit more frequent, a bit more frequent touch points. Maybe it's daily, sometimes even multiple times a day, especially for new people. If the person's rolling fine and they don't need a lot of help, and I know that they're resolving things fine on their own, then maybe I'll back off a little bit. But being willing to jump in and out and being willing to create the communication is extremely vital. And you yourself have to realize that if you're not the one that's pushing forward, that most people will not do it themselves. The vast majority of people will wait for someone else to talk to them, and they're afraid to go and start and initiate that conversation. So as the manager, a lot of what you're responsible for doing is initiating that conversation, talking about that specific thing, and getting it resolved. Whether that's an accountability conversation that can be very difficult, whether it's a conversation about correcting course, or even more important, in my opinion, is a conversation about successes. And I always try to bring both up in different situations. So again, how I'm deciding whether or not there's been enough communication is, number one, is it resolving quickly? Number two, if the conversation gets too off track, it could be a matter of controlling the conversation, or just being dispersed. But frequently that indicates to me there's not enough communication in a certain area if it is productive and business related. And so that doesn't mean that you do need now another meeting in that area. And so that's kind of what I use to judge that. And if it's too much communication, then it just becomes chit chat and not productive. And if after the meeting you're like, wow, that was a waste of time, why was I there? That's a great indication that it wasn't necessary. So just use that judgment yourself. Again, I would rather err on the side of more communication than less in most cases. And I say that because the vast majority of people have a problem with not enough communication, not too much communication. So use that for your own judgment, but that's kind of what I've seen in my experience. And the more you can coordinate with your team members, with the other executives, with clients, whatever the situation may be, the better able you are to maximize the benefit of what you are producing, and let them know and coordinate with those situations. So I hope that helps. Again, my name is Rob Witt. If you have any questions, please put some comments below, subscribe. Thanks guys, I'll see you next time.